Hello everybody, John here from the Esports Department going over the 4-game LPL LCK slate for tonight, and this is a pretty reasonable one. I think there's one match on this slate that just really makes the slate, and we'll hit it pretty soon here. So last night was pretty good. I went up to 7-5 in my challenge against Max Steinberg from SaberSim. We're looking at maybe only 6 slates left on the split, and a 2-point lead at this point is pretty valuable, so pretty happy to be there. Another win here tonight would be, man, it had to be pretty close to locking the whole thing up. Very, very close. So I'd love to get a win tonight, so we'll definitely look at some cash game stuff here. Let's start off with the first game on the slate, FPX at minus 1200. They are 10-4 on the season, up against Victory 5, who is plus 650. They are 5-9 on the season. Looking at the standings, Victory 5, this is basically their, you have to win this game or you're not making the playoffs, 100%. They need to basically win out to give them any reasonable shot at making the playoffs. It's not looking good for them at the moment, and now they face FPX, one of the toughest teams in the league. The reason, statistically, this is another one of those matchups that's just going super heavily to FPX. I should add as well, last night, just another example that the LPL favorites are just getting it done. I'm normally really heavy on LPL underdogs as a common play that I like to make. I've been on them less and less this year. The good teams in the league are just way better than the bad teams. Statistically, this matchup, nothing really super close at all for Victory 5. FPX is an extremely bloody team, 19-19. So dealing with the 17 and 18.5 of Victory 5, plus the fact that they really need to win this game to make the playoffs, this seems like an extremely bloody match. FPX seems like the team of the day, most likely. Extremely likely to win this match, likely to score well. But if you believe in Victory 5 and their last-ditch attempt to make playoffs, Victory 5 definitely a live underdog in a super bloody matchup like this. FPX, for their playoff spot, they're a full loss behind Top Esports, WE, EDG, but they're still battling, so they're definitely going to want to win here. They're motivated, same as JDG and Rare Atom. All these teams, they're going to try to battle into this top 4. 100% motivation there. So FPX definitely motivated, as is Victory 5. The second match of the day, RNG at plus 125. So the top team in the league at plus 125. 11-2 on the season, up against Top Esports, who is minus 165, 10-3 on the season. So let's look at motivations first. RNG, definitely motivated. They're in first place. They would like to hold it. It's not going to take a ton more from here for them to be looking pretty good to hold it. And this has to be their toughest match of the remaining season. So they're definitely going to be looking to win here. Top Esports, they're 10-3. They're part of that top 4 gang. They are also shooting for first place in the regular season. They still have a full, still a full 3 matches, so they can get up to 13-3, which, they would win the league unless WE wins out or EDG wins out, or if RNG can make something happen after this loss. So they're still playing for first, and they're going to want to win this match for sure. They are on a 7-match win streak. They were 3-3 to start the season. Looking at stats, RNG with an 1892, Top Esports 1941, plus 258 to plus 173, so advantage to Top again there. Top has first blood, first turret. They do have a lower dragon percentage, RNG with 59 to their 55. Herald percentage, they're up by about 18%, so Top Esports likely to get those heralds. The goal differential, RNG is plus 664, Top Esports is plus 2,612. So advantage is pretty much everywhere to Top Esports. You have to like their chances here. This is going to be a battle of a series. RNG's numbers are still absolutely fantastic across the board. Top Esports just has the best stats in the league for sure. So you gotta make Top Esports the favorite here. The minus 165 feels in the neighborhood of correct. Kill per win and death per loss wise, the lowest number we're seeing 17.7, so this is another bloodfest over here. The only thing I worry about with a game like this, and it's only a minor worry, but the only thing I worry about with a match like this is the kind of matchup for me where it could easily be like a 17-2 game 1 and then a 17-2 game 2 the other way, or 17-6 or 16-6 or whatever, and then go the other way in the second game and kind of pseudo invalidate both teams. I worry about that a little bit, so it's a reasonable spot where you could try to fade this game. This game is going to be super high ownership in GPPs, one side or the other. If you completely fade this matchup, you're going to get some low-owned combinations. But it's a matchup that should be in most lineups for a reason. Going over to the LCK, Live Sandbox against Freda Brion. Both these teams are still in the running to make that 6th place spot, which is currently being held by Nongshim. Freda Brion's at 5-10, Live Sandbox at 4-11. Live Sandbox definitely the least likely team by a lot to be able to make the playoffs, but they are still technically live, so they're going to be playing as if they're alive here for sure. They are minus 165 to Freda Brion's plus 125. Statistically, 1759 for Sandbox to 1700 for Freda Brion, minus 79 to minus 144. Brion with the first blood advantage, but a huge first turret advantage for Live Sandbox. Dragon percentage is right about even, but Live Sandbox way more likely to get the Herald. And at 15 minutes, it's plus 224 to minus 1243. So there's a reason that Sandbox is the minus 165 favorite, even though they are 4-11 on the season to Brion's 5-10. The teams are also only one game win different from each other. But this should be Sandbox favorite, I think. Sandbox has been pretty bloody with that 18-17, but Brion, one of the least bloody teams in the LCK. This is definitely a matchup I'm looking to fade. Maybe a little bit of ownership to Sandbox somewhere. Maybe a little bit of ownership to Brion as a cheaper team to go with one of these big LPL favorites, but this is not one I'm super excited about from a DFS point of view. The last matchup of the day, KT plus 375. They're 5-10 on the season up against GenG. I forgot to record their odds, but they must be somewhere around minus 500. 11-5 on the season. Let's see, let me just load it up real quick, just so we know for sure. I don't know how I forgot to get their odds in here. Minus 600. So minus 600 to plus 375. Statistically, this is one of those whitewash games. It's literally an advantage everywhere. First blood, first turret, dragon, herald, just big advantages in every metric. KT has looked worse and worse as the season has gone on. As far as motivation, the motivation for GenG is to keep their number 2 slot. They're battling with Hanwha. If one of these teams differentiated from the other one, then they wouldn't really be very motivated anymore. But they only have 2 games left this year, and they're going to be battling for that 2 spot the whole time. So GenG definitely motivated there, and then KT, they got to keep winning if they want to have any shot of taking this 6th spot here, because Nongshim's looking all right and has the spot ahead of them right now. So they're going to want to come out. If they get the 6-10 win here, they'll at least tie with Nongshim on secondary tiebreakers as well. So they can get that spot back if they can beat GenG here. That said, man, this really feels like an easy matchup for GenG. GenG is the second match of the day, which I hate to say it, but I think in this KT matchup, it might take some of their playability away. They're fighting for second, and they want to get second, but I could see some GenG subs in the mid and jungle here. Luckily, you don't have to worry too much about that at AD carry, support, or top lane for GenG, so you could maybe play those positions, but scary spot to be on GenG. This is a super easy matchup for them that maybe they might try messing with some backups in this matchup. With number 2 on the line might make it a little less likely, but it's a bit of a sketchy spot to be messing with GenG. For ownerships, I think it's kind of straightforward. I think FPX will be the highest owned because no one wants to play their opponent and everyone will want to play them. I think Top Esports and RNG come in together in second and third here. Just a ton of ownership to that matchup in general. I think both sides should be popular. I put GenG after that. They're just a pretty big favorite, so people will probably play them. Sandbox after that, an LCK favorite in a low-scoring matchup when stuff like Top Esports RNG's on the board. I could see that just falling down here. And then the big underdogs here, Freda Brion, Victory 5, and KT all the way down at the bottom. Usually an LPL underdog will get a bit of a nod over an LCK underdog, so we'll go Victory 5 ahead of KT, even though I think the odds for V5 are worse. Yep. Feels like it'll go somewhere right around here. That Top Esports RNG game is just going to take a huge percentage of the ownership, I think, one side or the other. So, looking over at the projections, let's look at the favorites. And I'm not even going to leave Brion in because I just don't feel like that matchup has much potential anyway, but I will leave RNG and Top Esports in there. So RNG projecting the best, followed by Top. And then it's GenG, Sandbox, and actually FPX in last for Nuguri there. In the jungle, RNG at the top, FPX second, Top Esports actually at the bottom for Karsa. In the mid lane, it's Sandbox actually projecting the highest. Fate, nicely done to Fate there. Cryan in second for RNG, then Top Esports, FPX in fourth, GenG last. And AD Carry, Top Esports, RNG. So basically what we're seeing is Top Esports and RNG at the top in some combination, then FPX second, GenG, and generally speaking, GenG and Sandbox down at the bottom. Same thing at support, RNG at the top, then FPX. So RNG projecting like the best if their team wins, but it seems like the winner of RNG Top Esports is the big stack that you want if you're trying to do that correctly. If you're going to fade a team, GenG or Sandbox would be your fade. Depending, let's see, 4 and 5, 4 and 5, 1 and 5, 4 and 3. It's really close, but you'd rather leave GenG in as opposed to Sandbox. So if you're going to fade one of them, it'd be Sandbox. Teams that are big enough favorites to play in cash, I think GenG, FPX. You could play Sandbox in cash. And I'm actually going to list Top Esports here. I think Top Esports is a reasonable option. So if we're going to fade one, that'd be Sandbox, and then we can get combinations GenG FPX, GenG TES, and FPX TES. Something tells me that last combo there is going to be what's going to end up being the best lineup. But let's have a look GenG FPX to start with. Jungle Captain, I'd like to make that into a 4-2 though. Is there a way? Doinby's a lot more expensive. Nuguri is cheaper than Rascal, so you could actually get Nuguri here. That leaves you 300 on the table. Is that enough to switch Beishwan and Klid? Oh, not quite. So you can play a Klid Captain with 4 FPX. It's extremely safe. There's some argument for this lineup for sure. I mean, the biggest scare about this lineup is that you have to play BDD and Klid, and I think that might be what would take me off of this lineup. You could switch it up, and the problem is Nuguri scores so poorly, because you could play Nuguri, Rascal, and then go Beishwan, Doinby, and then like maybe take Ruler and Crisp. You have plenty of money for that. It's a top captain. But I think if you're going to play cash, I don't know that you can play those two positions from GenG. So this would give you like a 582.2. Or if you did want to take that risk, what kind of upside are you gaining by going with that? What did it play? Nuguri. It played Nuguri, BDD, and then LWX, Crisp, and GenG team, which is 590.4. So if you happen to hear something early about the news and you hear that GenG for sure is playing Klid and BDD, then 590.4 is not a bad number, and this is very, very safe. 4 FPX are going to be among the highest scoring teams on the slate. It seems like a decent place to be involved. If you went GenG and Top Esports, 80 carry captain. You can get 80 carry captain of those two, which is wild. I really wish I could afford to get Karsa here, though. Let's see. Karsa is cheaper. 369 is more expensive. Knight is more expensive. Jackie Love is more expensive. Zhuo is more expensive. So you may have to switch to like mid captain, because I'd like to get rid of. This actually might be a spot where you could go, if you're playing cash, you could, and you really wanted to play this, you could probably go something like this, and then for your team slot, you could probably play like Sandbox. Yeah, Sandbox team's only 5,000. You could play that. And then if you did that, it would leave you a full 500, so you could actually switch to Jackie Love. And you get a 603.3. I'm going to list a couple different versions of this lineup there. So with the Sandbox team version, you get 603.3. The original optimized version, Oh wait, this is with Sandbox in the lineup. That's not what we want. The original optimized version is 602, but it's not a 4.2. So if you downgraded, like you could downgrade this to BDD, but then you're dealing with that same issue. Like you could downgrade to BDD, and then you could switch this to Karsa. Could you get Knight Captain if you did that? So if you're willing to play BDD, you can get a Knight Captain at 593. Unfortunately, you're going to have to play BDD or Clid, unless you want to go with... See, if you take this version, you could just switch him to Karsa, right? I thought Karsa was cheaper. So if you want to play the Ruler Captain, you're stuck with Clid in the lineup, and you're still only getting 602. I think I'd rather play the Sandbox version than play this. But, you know, you're getting 602 there. Ruler Captain 3-3. Let's look at FPX Top Esports, and then I want to go look at actually some Sandbox lineups too, because even though they project low, they're kind of cheap. They might be able to fit something really nice. So with FPX and Top Esports, let's say that we wanted to go down from Beishuan to Karsa. That leaves a full 1,000 on the table. Is there really not a way to move that up to Karsa? And go Beishuan. Nope, he's so expensive. Well, I guess if I was willing to move around somebody else, like what if I went from Crisp to Jouot? And then at the jungle you could play Karsa. I mean, you could play Beishuan. So you can get a jungle captain 4-3 with 4 Top Esports there, which is 581.3. What if I wanted 4 FPX? I assume it would have to be like Nuguri. Let's see, Karsa with Beishuan, Knight, LWX, Crisp, Top Team, Nuguri. And then Beishuan and Karsa almost certainly can't switch because Beishuan is just stupid expensive. Yep. But you can get still a jungle captain there with 4 FPX at 581 even. So if you wanted to play this version, I think this one is a little safer, even though it projects for 0.3 points less. You are getting 4 of the bigger favorite, so it's a little bit safer. It's probably worth losing 3 points of average, or 0.3 points of average. So this lineup makes some sense as well. Let's look at the Sandbox real quick. I'm not insanely excited so far. What about FPX Sandbox? $80 carry captain, but that's a 3-3, which of course I would like to not have. Is there 80 carry captain is so nice for that combination. 600.4 for the 3-3. What if I went mid captain? Could I get the 4? Beishuan, and maybe you go Prince. Well, I'd like to go Summit if it was possible. But that's like... Is Prince cheaper than... Yeah, he's way cheaper than Fate. That's why that was working out. Okay. But I assume there's no cheaper way to do this. A 400 gap, a 200 gap, a 400 gap, and a 600 gap. So you'd have to play Nuguri. You can play Sandbox Team, which is very cheap. But it's still going to leave you short of Beishuan. So And then you can't play mid captain because Fate is actually more expensive. So what you'd end up with is probably Beishuan captain. Let's have a look. Can we get Summit with that? That would be nice. No, not even close. What if we switched? Even that doesn't look like it's going to be close. So weird because Prince is so cheap that it gives you the illusion that you should be able to get a sweet lineup here, but you actually kind of can't. Because even if you were to downgrade, well, you have to downgrade Summit. And then you're going to need another 300. If you're willing to play Prince, then you could get Sandbox Team, and then you could probably switch Beishuan and Krakow. So you can get Beishuan captain with 4 FPX, and then Krakow, Prince, and Sandbox. It's not bad, man. Like, it kind of depends on how you feel about teams' chances to win. Like, Top Esports is reasonably likely to win, I think, but I kind of feel like Sandbox is more likely to win than Top Esports is. And then you get an FPX captain with Jungle captain 4 FPX. How much different are like Sandbox and Top Esports' expectations at the 2 positions we're looking at? It's like 6 points there. Oh, but like a full 14 points at 80 carry. I don't know. I think this one's reasonable. 585.8 4 FPX Bay Captain. So really, the Sandbox team slot version of GenG and Top Esports is coming out the best. Or you can play 581 with 4 FPX. What if you did these two with Sandbox Team? With FPX and Top Esports, is there like a Beishuan lineup that fits in there if we use that team slot? Say we went Knight, LWX, Crisp, Nuguri. That works. So you can also do Beishuan captain 4 FPX with Karsa, Knight, and Sandbox Team, and that's a 594.2. This is something I will at least consider playing. A lot of cash options tonight, basically, and none of them seem super obviously correct to me. The Sandbox Team version with GenG and Top Esports, reasonable. The Ruler Captain 3-3, reasonable, shows a lot of upside. Ruler Captain 3-3, I hate 3-3s, but Ruler Captain 3-3 might be the play. But you can go a lot safer with FPX and Sandbox and not have to worry about that Top Esports RNG matchup that's, somewhere near 50-50. It's an advantage to Top, like probably minus 140, minus 150, whatever, but it's not that far off. You can get a lot. I think you can get more safe with Sandbox, but I'll probably end up playing a Top Esports lineup. Something like this makes some sense, or going with the Ruler Captain 3-3 makes some sense too. I don't like playing 3-3s, but it's just a huge difference in upside playing the Ruler Captain version. 10-point difference. The Knight Captain with 4 Top Esports makes sense too. Probably end up playing one of those two. Either Knight Captain with GenG or Ruler Captain 3-3. I don't think I shoot for the super upside of going with the Sandbox Team version. I think just maybe trusting the Ruler Captain might be the way to go. So that's all for me tonight, guys. An interesting slate. So many options for cash. It's really hard what to say, but I think this is where you end up going. GenG, Top Esports. Fading FPX feels bad in a pretty easy matchup, but it seems like it projects better, and I trust the projections, so we'll go with that. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Good luck to us tonight. Hopefully get that 8-5 lead in the Steinberg Challenge. and maybe win a GPP. I haven't won a GPP in a little bit. The last 2 days I was in first place in the 333 until the game not playeds came through, and the game not playeds knocked me out. So I have to turn that around and get a win tonight. That'll be all for today, everybody. Good luck, and let's get some money.